what, let's say, society wants is that data center will not take electricity at the expense of citizens. You want data centers to be good grid citizens. How do you do that? By disconnecting data centers during this peak time and data centers moving to their on-site clean energy generation capacity. That's in fact what we're proposing.
Hi folks, James here, and welcome to the Spiro Circle, this time in collaboration with Forbes Israel. A lot of people are talking about the need for data centers. It's true, we need more and more AI near us to better suit our needs and help us with our products and our services. But there's a lot of politics behind there as well. People don't want these big companies building these big data centers right in their communities. And it's causing some real issues. Communities are protesting the development of data centers near them. People are attacking data centers and trying to vandalize them. But companies are not yet successful at conveying to the public why exactly they're so needed. And the public has a point to an extent. Data centers that use diesel for energy can be loud, they can be unhealthy, they can be basically a bit of a nuisance in the community. A company called Phinergy is changing all of that. It's trying to replace diesel as the main material used for the backup generators for data centers. Now, data centers are critical infrastructure. They can't afford to go offline for even a second. And so the energy that's needed to keep that generator kind of safe is what causes the issue. But if you can produce a clean alternative, then there really won't be a problem. So I spoke to CEO Emmanuel Levy all about this, about how people are resisting data centers in their communities, about some of the work that the big companies need to do to sway public opinion. And then we spoke about Phinergy's actual product and how it is helping replace diesel and how it competes with things like lithium. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Emmanuel, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure being with you today.
I'm very excited to speak about some of the things that you folks are up to, because we will be talking about one of the things that not many people are really aware of outside of the context of who we're speaking with. AI data center demand is pretty big right now, but there's a bit of a bottleneck. So why don't you please kind of take it away from the top, give us a bit of context as to where the problems are right now, and then where you folks are coming in.
Sure. So I believe that everybody is familiar with AI. And let's say most of us are also familiar with the fact that AI runs on data centers. And data centers are kind of the infrastructure of the AI services that we're all consuming more and more. So currently, these data centers need, in order to cope with the demand for AI, need to grow at an extremely fast pace. And these are, in fact, real estate projects. So imagine that you need to build a lot of these data centers and bring them all the chips, the GPUs, the TPUs, the CPUs, chips inside in order to compute, let's say, the AI models and answer the market demand. But in order for these chips to make this compute, they need to be connected to energy source. And they are extremely, extremely energy hungry. So you have, let's say, 3 layers. You have a real estate project layer. You have a chip, a compute layer, and you have an energy layer. And this energy layer is today maybe the main bottleneck because, let's say, currently adding capacity to the grid is something that takes decades, while the pace of growth of the AI industry and the data center construction is 20-25% growth per year. So these are two paces that don't live together well, and there is something to solve here in order to enable the AI growth in a way that will be sustainable for, let's say, the global energy system.
No, wow, thank you. And we'll get kind of all into it as the episode gets underway. But it's a big kind of hot topic at the moment, because you're right, it's not just the energy, but it's also the kind of backup energy that's needed, because this is kind of critical infrastructure, right? It can't just go dead. It can't just die in the middle of operations. And that's where you folks kind of come in with your solution. So you've called aluminium air, sorry, the American vernacular there came out for a sec, aluminium air, a potential new industry standard. So talk us through a bit about what the current power stack looks like, what it gets wrong, and why there's a need for a new standard at all.
Sure. So in a very simple and basic way, each data center should have two sources of energy. One that is, let's say, its regular primary power source. In general, it's the electrical grid. And the second one is a power backup system that is exactly sized in the same way. So give an example of a 100 megawatt data center. It will be plugged to 100 megawatt grid capacity and have on-site backup power for another 100 megawatts, so that when the grid goes down, you have the ability to generate on-site power so that the data center continue working, so that you have access to cloud and AI services that are more and more critical. Because obviously all the data from companies, from health system, from defense sector, everything is on the cloud and is more and more using AI services. So this is mission critical infrastructure that require this type of resilience structure regarding the energy supply. Now, our role into that, because that's what you were asking, James, is that currently the backup power is provided 95% of the time by diesel generators, which is a kind of legacy technology, engines more than 100 years old. They, let's say, achieved a lot of great things, but they are extremely polluting, noisy, and as such, becoming a burden towards, and in fact, liability for the data centers, because data centers growing in size would require more and more of these generators on site, which has a very detrimental impact on local communities, whether it is emissions, meaning pollution, hazardous health pollution, and on the other side, all the noise and the problems related to the supply chain of these type of solutions. So today, what happens is that there are more and more data centers, and they are facing constraints and difficulties to install let's say, the legacy backup power solution. So we are coming with another type of fuel, aluminum, meaning the most abundant metal on Earth, used as a man-made fuel, recyclable and zero emission. So it enjoys higher energy density than diesel per volume and per weight. And it can be used in the data center, next to the data center, without generating any noise or pollution, and with higher availability in terms of supply chain, meaning solving a lot of these bottlenecks and providing the data centers with the level of resilience that, in fact, is required for these mission critical loads.
Well, that's exactly what I want to kind of touch on, because what you folks are doing at Phinergy is solving some of those issues that come with critical infrastructure, right? Because of course, these data centers are critical infrastructure, as we've just outlined. They can't afford to go offline. But some of the things that diesel create are the things that you've mentioned, kind of the pollution, the noise, some of the things that maybe is evoking some of the kind of big backlash we're seeing against data centers. I mean, you see people kind of trying to destroy them and rallying against them. So there is this kind of NIMBY effect, this not in my backyard. People understand the essential aspect of them. People understand why they're needed, but they also understand that they kind of don't want them near themselves. Where do you lie in changing public perception and in kind of improving the social acceptability of something like a data center? Because that's going to take quite a lot of kind of convincing, right?
Look, I think that the main purpose here is to be able to explain people that they need data centers and they may want even data centers. It's, let's say, it's significant investment. It brings wealth to a region or to a city and so on. But it can be separated from, let's say, the detrimental effects that they have identified, whether it is pollution, whether it is noise, or it is water consumption, meaning these are the three main, let's say, topics that people are caring about and are afraid of when they are thinking about growth of the data center industry. And the NIMBY effect is because of these, let's say, three type of, let's say, public resources, meaning air quality is public resource, public assets, let's say silence also, and availability of water. So we understand people when they are thinking that if the data center is coming at the expense of these three key resources, it is something that is not positive for their community. However, if you're able to say and explain why new data center can come without this price on the public resources, on the shared resources, in this case, you're able to make, let's say, the advocacy that you just spoke about. And how are we doing that? I'll touch first the two aspects of pollution and noise. So in our case, since we're a zero emission source of power, on-site generation, and that our it's not, let's say, kind of engine that generates noise, so we're able to neutralize these two detrimental effects. The third one, which is water, is something that is being taken care of by vast majority of the industry. And let's say data centers that were using a lot of water 5 or 10 years ago are now using much different technologies that are extremely water conscious and that are using. I think there was a publication by Microsoft saying that their new generation of data centers will use equivalent of water consumption of a restaurant. So a big data center equivalent to a restaurant. So something very, very minor. So if we're able to explain that data center can come without these local impacts, I think that we're in fact bringing back the debate where it should be. But in order to do so, you need to promote the right technology, the right solutions.
And that promotion comes from the developers of the data centers themselves, right? So you folks are helping them in that kind of in that fight, but the kind of onus is on the developers, right? They're the ones that have to go into these communities that may not want to be disrupted by something that they think will cause what will hopefully become outdated and kind of old-fashioned issues. Is that right?
Right. So you're right, but in fact it's multi-layer, meaning on one side, new technologies like ours, like Phinergy's, need to be socialized. Meaning we need people, we need communities, we need developers, we need regulators to be aware of it, to know that it exists and that it's available and that it solves the problem. So that's one step. Second step is that regulator should be aware of it and enable it. So I just give an example. In some old regulations, you would see that they were not addressing backup power. In the regulation, the words used were generators. So diesel generators or fuel generators. So in this case, you need to have, let's say, a more technology agnostic wording in order to enable new technologies to jump in. And the third and main layer, obviously, is the one of the developers. At the end of the day, they are carrying the project. They want to develop it, and they need to take the new technologies, make sure that it is vetted by the regulation, and now go with it towards communities and convince them that they will be, let's say, benefiting from new data centers and will not be affected by. There will be no NIMBY effect.
Okay, I'm going to invert the question now, because I was kind of offloading a lot of the pressure off of you to say, the developers are the ones who need to convince the public of these new alternative methods. How do you, as Emmanuel or as Phinergy, go up to these hyperscalers that are relying on building critical infrastructure? How do you go up to them and tell them that there are new materials or new chemicals that can get them what they want? Like, what does the sales cycle look like for you? And can you give me any story about how maybe you convinced a customer or a client? Like, how does that work exactly? Because you also have to convince them before they can convince the public.
Right. So it's very, you have various types of, let's say, sales cycle. Sometimes, let's say, the customer is very, very conscious of the problem and is looking for a solution. So sometimes they're just coming to us. So it arrived that we're contacted by a hyperscaler saying, I read about your solution. Maybe you're solving an important problem for us. That's one. Let's say that's when you're lucky. Other can be, and that's, let's say, our currently our flagship project is a project that we're developing with a consortium of hyperscalers called the Net Zero Innovation Hub, which was started and launched by Google and Microsoft, and to which AWS recently joined. And in fact, this consortium was formed in order to solve, let's say, common problems to the industry, meaning segments of the industry where they are not competing each other, they are not fighting each other, but they need common solutions. So this consortium was formed maybe 18 months ago, and the first project that they launched was to look for clean alternatives to diesel generators to provide resilient energy to their data centers. So they opened a kind of request for proposal, and they got 70 proposals that arrived from, let's say, all around the world. And we were lucky enough, or maybe convincing enough, to be the one selected and chosen by these hyperscalers. And they were looking for new technologies that were not yet completely at the right scale and completely at the right, let's say, maturity. That was already almost 1 year ago. And they partnered with us. And they, in fact, it was, let's say, the best accelerator, because we were with a customer that was sharing its need, was sharing with the desired specifications of the product. And we were able this way to develop the product and scale it to the right megawatt scale together with them, build together a validation program. And we're currently in the middle of this process. And towards the end of the year, we'll be, after the full validation of our megawatt scale units that were, let's say, developed by Phinergy, but with the inputs of the industry. And it's important to say that in this consortium, in addition to hyperscalers, I gave the name, there are also, let's say, the big equipment providers, power and cooling equipment providers like Schneider Electric or Vertiv, that are currently addressing these type of problems, are already supplying to the hyperscalers. So they are also coming with very important technical and marketing inputs for us. So we're enjoying, and that's to answer your question. That's the way. In fact, that's the main platform that we're using to let's say, broadcast our message to the industry.
You kind of led me into this section that I wanted to kind of go into, because you were selected, just to give kind of a bit more context and maybe a bit more credit where it's due. You were selected from more than 70 proposals by the Net Zero Innovation Hub, which was a consortium, as you mentioned, some of the big players: Google, Microsoft, Data4, Vertiv, and Schneider Electric, which you mentioned. What did that selection like? Tell me about that selection process exactly. Like, you said you were selected. What did it look like? Was it testing chemistry or manufacturability, or was it just was it kind of just a validation of the future and a validation of the needs that they knew they would have? Like, talk me through what that looked like exactly.
Yes, sure. So in this case, you have, let's say, two layers. You have a layer that is, okay, there is a request for proposal. You need to file your proposal, to upload it to a site, a website, and make sure that you're presenting the right way your solution, its advantages, the way it solve the industry problem. You make the right comparison on the right KPIs so that you're sure that they understand how you're different from others and better on several aspects. Let's say that's the mechanics. Now you have another aspect. The other aspect is that in general, you will not be chosen. You will not be selected if they don't know you prior to that. So you need, in fact, and that's true for all the new technologies in these type of fields. You need to have one-to-one relationship with the main players in these type of organizations. They need to know you directly. So we invested a lot of effort in order to reach the right people. So it can be through at conferences. It's rarely cold calls. So most of the time conferences or let's say partners that are opening doors. It can be senior advisors that are very, let's say, that have a strong network in the industry. We are enjoying the fact that, for instance, we have two senior advisors. One that is Peter Gross, who is, let's say, a veteran from the data center industry, who's currently the chairman of the technology board of Vertiv, and Christian Belatti was VP of technologies of Microsoft data centers. So these people were, let's say, exposed to our technology, were convinced by it, and as such, were able to open doors, help us get to the right places. Without that, it's very, very difficult for people to take you seriously, in fact.
Yeah. And just to kind of tie a bow on that, you shared a stage in Cannes with Google and Microsoft executives discussing this very topic. So not into, you were validated not just in terms of their participation, but in the kind of the public presentation of the challenge as well. And the kind of validation there is super impressive. What did that moment reveal in terms of the seriousness that the big tech companies are taking this? Like, that must have been a big moment. Are they painting it as an AI infrastructure problem, or are they painting it as a software issue? Like, how are they presenting this?
Sure. So they are, let's say, they are kind of in a squeeze situation, because on one side, they see that they have to massively grow their AI infrastructure. You see the numbers that were published. I think that Google will invest $185 billion capex in AI this year. Similar amounts at Microsoft, AWS, Meta. It's incredible. So they are just running as fast as they can, and then they need to jump above obstacles. And one of the key obstacles is, let's say, availability of energy. And so for them, or for part of these organizations, finding available energy on one side and let's say compatible backup power solutions on the other side are becoming key problems that they need to solve, because otherwise they will not be able to deploy enough AI, and they will not be able to make the potential revenues that they were expecting for. So you find electrons becoming bottlenecks for the bottom line of the big tech of this world.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. I also want to kind of dive in a bit deeper into all of this as well, because I don't want the conversation to stay away from kind of why this is such an issue to begin with, because I want to kind of give the people who may not be familiar with the logistics of this an opportunity to kind of get up to date. So data centers, because a lot of people are saying, why can't we just put them anywhere? Why do they have to be in communities? Why do they have to be near the people, right? It's not in my backyard, but why in any backyard? Kind of, it's a kind of question. But the way that you have, or the way that it's kind of organized, is that there's a difference between training centers and inference centers. One of them doesn't need to be near the community, and the other one does need to be near the community. So talk us through what the differences are in the data centers exactly, and why this is even an issue to begin with, and why, why is the foundation there?
Sure. So let's get back maybe to how AI works. So AI currently, large language models need to be trained. Most of us have heard this word about training models, and there are new versions of models, and so each new version needs new training. So training is this very intensive compute period of time during which the model is built and is being in fact refined. And this requires a lot of compute, and it can happen anywhere. It can happen in a remote place. It doesn't have to be near the customers, near the market. You just need massive data centers and very, very strong access to power. It even can go down for a few minutes or few hours because there is no customer connected, and they can restart the training at the point it stopped. So this is, let's say, geography agnostic, and it's even less, let's say, energy sensitive in terms of resilience. That's one part. The second part is when the model is trained and is ready to be used to answer customers' questions, meaning users' prompts, and we're now all of us users. So it becomes, we're moving to the inference phase. The inference is using the model to answer your question. This happens in a different data center. This happens in data centers that are close to the customers, close to the people they're bringing service to. So you would have a lot of more local data centers, sometimes medium-sized, maybe not the gigantic behemoth of the training, but the inference data centers will be localized next to communities, next to large cities, in order to reduce the latency. You know that it takes time to get some answers from AI. It's not exactly a millisecond. So you don't want to add to this computing time the time for the information to go to a remote place and back. So more and more services are AI-based. They need the AI to be as close as possible to the market. So that's the reason why inference in this case is localized next to communities. In the inference data centers, you need to cope with the fact that on one side, since it's mission critical, you cannot allow 1 millisecond of disruption. So you need perfect energy supply. On the other side, in general, it is next to a city, so it's connected to one grid, not to two grids, like a remote data center can put itself in the middle of two grids and be connected to two different power supplies. So you absolutely need to have local on-site backup power generation in order to make sure that there is no disruption. So that's why there is the NIMBY problem. You need it next to the customer, and you need a resilience energy source next to it.
No, it makes sense, and it's a problem, not a problem. It's an evolution that is inevitable, right? Because it's as you said, it's like, this is a big scale, but it's like at home, you want to be near the internet router, right? You want to be closer to the internet, the provider that's giving you the best internet. And so I can imagine why cities or even towns would want to be nearer the technology that's helping them, even if they have a tension in their own mind about kind of what that looks like. What does the future of a data center look like? Is there a world or a future where a data center could be like a lamppost, like something that could provide cellular. Like what? It's quite an intimidating thought now, the idea of these big data centers. But is there a future where they just kind of change and it could be like an aerial tower? Like what do they look like?
Okay. In fact, I think that currently the industry is exploring several vectors. On one side, there are these huge data centers that are becoming even bigger. At some point, it will stop because when you have a 1 gigawatt data center, it means that, in fact, you would need a dedicated nuclear power plant just to feed it. Okay.
Wow.
So that's, by the way, just to give you a sense, let's say McKinsey forecast is that by 2030, there will be an additional 140 gigawatts of consumption, of power consumption by data centers. It means equivalent to 140 nuclear power plants that you need to set up in 4 years. Reminding you that in general, setting up a nuclear power plant is more a 10 to 15 years project. So you understand why there is a bottleneck on one side. On the other side, I think it's important to understand that the grid is not full, meaning that there is still capacity. And maybe it's worth mentioning that in the US grid, for instance, the average consumption is maybe 35% of the maximum capacity. So a very limited portion of the grid capacity is used in average. So what is the problem? If you have so much spare capacity, maybe you can just chip in more data centers and nothing will happen. But it's not exactly like that because there is a certain behavior. The average is what it is, but the peak power, meaning in general, once a year, mid-August, maybe 14th of August, you would reach from 35%, you'll reach 85% of usage of the grid capacity, meaning you're getting to the very maximum of what is possible because above that, it's just emergency power. And in this case, you understand that there is spare capacity, but there is no capability to use it all 24/7 all year round. So, and here we are trying to bring, let's say, a systemic solution, a systemic, let's say, answer, because we believe that it's very important to tap in this unused capacity of the grid. It enables to install more and more data centers. But these data centers will need to be able to disconnect from the grid in the peak time. So that, because if you're moving from 35% usage in average to 50% in usage in average, you'll touch the ceiling more often. And when touching the ceiling, what, let's say, society wants is that data center will not take electricity at the expense of citizens. You want data centers to be good grid citizens. How do you do that? By disconnecting data centers during this peak time and data centers moving to their on-site clean energy generation capacity. That's in fact what we're proposing. And that's the way it enables to use more of the existing assets of the grid, which is, by the way, economical optimization, because these hundreds of billions of dollars of investment in grid infrastructure have already been made. They just need to be more used. It's an underused asset, if you think about it this way. So we are enabling to leverage existing investment by just solving the few tens of hours during which it would get to its maximum capacity.
Wow. Okay, thank you. I want to now kind of steer away from the power grid context and kind of focus now on Phinergy, because you folks are operating in that space, but as an alternative to diesel and some of the ways that you offer your aluminium air kind of alternative, is there any other space that you consider doing that in? And if so, and if not, why?
Sure. So, in fact, our aluminum generators are producing electricity, producing electrons. So there are, let's say, infinite number of applications that would use electricity. And we tried, let's say, several verticals, but definitely we get to the conclusion that in the data center market, it's the market where we're solving the biggest problem, and where, let's say, the intrinsic advantages of our technology are being, let's say, used in the best way. In this case, the fact that aluminum, by the way, have we seen that? This is a plate of aluminum. Here you have 3 kilowatt hour. It would be, let's say, 20 to 30 kilogram of lithium ion if you wanted to have the same quantity of energy. So in the data center industry, we are solving a bigger problem. We thought about other markets. We had initiatives in the electric mobility sector. We are already operating in the telecom sector, which is kind of close to data center. It's also mission critical infrastructure. So it's close. It's less mission critical currently. So there are, let's say, a data center industry brings, let's say, we are bringing more value to that. But we were, let's say, a new technology. New technology is always looking for the right market of the best fit. So there is a journey or you're testing, let's say, the advantages of your technology versus the challenges of each of the markets.
Mm. And so I just want to, because the one that comes to my mind is like automotive, right? You could be like a good replacement for diesel there, and but lithium has kind of taken the place as the replacement there. So we spoke before this, and you kind of said lithium won the automotive kind of area, and that's great, good for them. Would lithium be a replacement for you guys in the power grid space, or is it different things? Like, where's what material or chemical is your direct competitor?
Sure. So lithium definitely won the automotive market, and they did it very well. And now it's, let's say, it's becoming the widespread and standard. In fact, in the data center industry, and let's say, and the grid resilience application, it's a bit different. It's in fact very different, because lithium, like a battery, has a limited capacity, meaning you're storing energy for 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours maximum. It's very rare to have lithium-ion batteries for more than 8 hours, because it becomes very expensive. In fact, even with the low price of lithium, the price went down significantly. But even though for a long number of hours, it becomes non-economic. Additionally, when you're looking at providing resilience to the grid, you don't need to be limited by any number of hours, even if it's 100 hours, because maybe you'll need 101 hour. So you need to move from storage, which has a limited capacity, to generation that you can refill continuously in order to continue generating. Like you would imagine that if you have an engine and you're generating electricity out of diesel, for instance, you can just fill in more diesel in the tank and it will continue generating. So we are just filling more aluminum in our aluminum generators so that it continues providing power. So that's the reason why, let's say, any storage technology cannot fit with the energy resilience need of mission critical infrastructure like data centers.
So if lithium has some of those drawbacks that you just mentioned, is there an honest weakness when it comes to your technology? Is there any gap there that people, at the risk of humbling you and the work that you do, is there any potential weakness or pain point that needs to be considered when it comes to the alternatives?
I think that in order, let's say, to get the maximum value of technology, you need to know what are its limitations. So definitely, every technology has limitations. In our case, we are, let's say, our advantage of using aluminum as a fuel that doesn't degrade, that is clean and so on, comes also with the fact that it's a solid and it's a physical material that you need to bring to the site. So you can store it on site, you can optimize the logistics, but you would not, let's say, it would not make sense in logistics standpoint to use it as primary power and generate electricity 24/7 all year round, because it would require, let's say, intensive supply chain that would not make sense and that would not be competitive with the grid in this case. So I think we are very conscious of, let's say, our distinctive advantages and also our limitations, so that we're not trying to catch markets that would not fit with our technology.
Well, that's good to know. Emmanuel, we've spoken so much about the challenge at hand, the kind of, I didn't want to say existential, but it kind of is kind of the inevitable challenge that comes all of our ways as technology like this evolves, and some of the solutions that are coming our way through folks like you. I wish we could talk even more, but we are running out of time, unfortunately. But I've really enjoyed getting to know what you folks are doing and how your solution is different from any of the other kind of alternative solutions out there. I do want to end or bring this conversation to a close, as I often do, which is with a quickfire round. So I want to shoot some questions at you as quick as possible, and I want you to answer them back with as little thinking as possible. And I promise I won't go too harsh on you. But I have a few questions for you. Diesel or aluminium, which one dies first?
Diesel dies first.
What's one word for the AI power crisis?
Bottleneck.
Training or inference? What's the biggest long-term energy problem?
Inference, because you'll have more and more inference data centers. Training will remain limited.
Israel or Silicon Valley? Where does the next energy breakthrough actually come from?
Israel is great at innovation. Silicon Valley would scale it a lot of time. But what about China?
Oh yeah, that's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. But we'll see. Lithium's biggest weakness in one sentence.
I don't think it's weakness. It's the fact that it's storage and not generation. So it's very good for, let's say, cycling. It's great for cycling. It's not good for providing long tail of energy. That's a limitation.
That makes sense. Final question of the quickfire round. What's the one question investors never ask you but should ask you?
I think they forget to ask, are we the right investors for you? They are always convinced that they are, but it may not be the case.
Okay, Emmanuel, I said that was the last question, but I kind of lied. I have one last question for you now, and then I'll let you go. What is the best way for people who are watching or listening to this episode right now to follow you, stay up to date with you, all the things that you're up to and Phinergy, and all the ways that they can remain connected?
Best way would be through LinkedIn. So following Phinergy on LinkedIn and following me, writing to me, I do my best to answer.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to put the links and appropriate information at the bottom. Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time and insights today. It was super interesting to learn some of the ways that these challenges are being fixed. And I look forward to seeing how it all goes.
Looking forward to. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.